Hello. I will be talking about Samuel Taylor Coleridge. He was born on October 21st, 1772, in Devonshire, England. He was the youngest out of 10 children. I tried to look up to make sure there was 10, but in the book it said 10, and then in different websites and everything like that, some said it was 14, and then like the names, they only had 8. So I'm not 100% sure on how many children he had exactly, but it's anywhere between 8 and 14. um at a young age, he was very smart. At the age of 3, he had already read the whole entire Bible. He did various competitions in school. He even got a medal for a piece of poetry that he wrote. He was very, very smart. And sadly, 2 weeks before his ninth birthday, his father died. I tried to look up how he died, but I couldn't find anything. It could have been anything in this time, but I couldn't find anything on how he died. Um, a little bit fast forward, because Coleridge did history so much. He ended up joining the military under an alias name, Silas Tompkin Cumberbatch. That's a weird name, but that's the name he chose to go under. He wasn't really developing like the other troops and learning as much as the other troops. And at this time, his brother was a military captain, and he would well he got with his brother and was like this isn't working out, so he got his brother to plead insanity just so he can get out of the military. um he did want to be like an influence, so he did speak a lot on behalf of his community about war and slavery. He was very big on history things, and as soon as his child was born, which his child was named Hartley, and he was born in 1796. He realized he has to get his life together, because at this time he didn't really have a home. He was living off of other people, and so he decided to get a house right next to his best friend. They were best friends at the time. Some of Coleridge's influences were German philosophers G.W.T. Hegel and Immanuel Kant and Friedrich Schelling. These were very big influence on his life and his writings. He talked about them a lot. Around 18, I want to say around 1808, 1810-ish, he started drifting away from his wife because he loved his sister-in-law. He didn't really show his wife love anymore. They didn't really communicate because he was in love with his sister-in-law. And his sister-in-law's name was Sarah Hutchinson. She didn't really want him and tried to communicate that with him, because once she was getting married to someone else and he already had a wife. So that wouldn't really be smart for him to like her or even love her at this time, because there was no point. They weren't ever going to be together in the first place. And he kind of took that hard and got himself into drugs like opium, and also started drinking a lot, which led to depression. Um, he later ended up leaving his family, his son and his wife, to become a traveling journalist. He got worse with his addiction and started drinking more, and because of the loneliness and the way he felt about himself. He felt like he was a failure because he couldn't come up with anything else. Like his works weren't doing well. He didn't really have a family anymore because he left them. The woman he loved didn't love him back. She was getting married, and he wanted to kill himself. He didn't feel like he wanted to live anymore because he felt like, what was the point if he didn't have anything, you know? So he ended up wanting to kill himself, but he didn't, thankfully. Um, by 1814, poets like Percy Shelley, John Keats, and George Gordon Byron all confessed that they were admirers of Coleridge's poetry. Hearing this made him have that spark in writing again, and one of the last things that Coleridge wrote was Biographica Literaria. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. This was basically about understanding poetry, reading poetry, and being able to analyze poetry. Coleridge died in 1934 of heart failure, which was caused by an unknown lung disorder, which could have been brought up by the overuse of opium. I'm going to be talking about his famous poem, Frost at Midnight. This was published on February 17th, 1798. And it kind of meditates on his childhood. And I like to think of this as I was reading it. I'm using the first stanza, which says, "The frost performs its secret ministry. Unhailed by any wind, the owlet's cry came loud and hark again, loud as before. The inmates of my cottage, all at rest, have left me to the solitude which suits abstruser musings, save that at my side my cradled infant slumbers peacefully. 'Tis calm indeed, so calm that it disturbs and vexes meditation with its strange and extreme silentness." When I was reading this first stanza, that's not the full first stanza, but as I was reading this, it kind of made me think that he was daydreaming, and he kind of got to a point where his son came and laid on his leg and cradled next to him, and the first thing that he did was like kind of get out of his daydream. And then he started listening to those things around him, like the nature, like the owls and the trees rustling and all the things around him, and made him think of his childhood. And it kind of made me think, well, in his in Coleridge's actual life, he didn't really he had a childhood and he was extremely smart, but his father died at a young age. And he didn't really get that one-on-one time with his father as much as a son should or could have, because he lost his. It didn't. His past didn't really tell us how his father was towards him, but I'm sure that his father would have been proud of him. And this makes me think that, like, as the poem keeps going on, it talks about like at school with most believing mind, presageful, have a gaze upon the bars to watch that fluttering stranger. And it talks about how he was sitting at school and he watches this stranger, but it kind of makes me think, like, of course it's him, but how he wished he could go back to his childhood and relive some of these memories that he no longer can live because he's an adult now and he didn't have that father figure in his life as he does now with his child. Um, Even though he did end up leaving his child, I'm not sure if he went back to them or what, but I feel like that was a huge impact on him when he did decide to leave with this poem, because it's it this poem is like reminiscing on things that he lost. And I feel like he lost most of his childhood when his dad died. If that makes sense. If that if that makes sort of kind of sense. It also says, with all the numberless goings goings on of life, inaudible as dreams, the thin blue flame lies on my low burnt fire and quivers not. Only that film which flirted on the grate still flutters there, the sole unquiet thing. And this is why it made me think that he was having a daydream, because he says the film, and so I was thinking like maybe he's picturing this film on top of the fire of his childhood and what things could have been, but they're not like that anymore because of how he is now and how he's grown up. That was my presentation, and I hope you enjoy it.